squall. Hope you can see it clearly. There's actually two squalls there, and they are coming directly at me. So we'll see how this plays out. I just got hit by a squall. In fact, I'm right in it right now. And I just had time to put up a double reef in the sail first. The rain is pelting down, the wind is howling, the boat is rock and rolling. But Isabel, as usual, is doing exactly what was expected of her and holding up well. A good freshwater wash down is pretty good at this time anyway. So it's really coming down now. You can see, I don't know if it's showing on the camera, but the rain really flattens out the seas. It's very impressive. And then, just as quickly as the squall came, it leaves. And the wind returns to a nice, calm 12-15 knots. The sea is fine. Things have settled all down again. So they're very they get your attention in a big way, these squalls. Not to be taken for granted. Well, morale took a bit of a beating last night. We were fine until about midnight. The wind was from a beam and it was quite robust. So I was doing like 7.5 knots and directly toward the destination until about midnight. And then the wind became very irregular, and I must have gone up 7 or 8 times to ease the sail out or trim it in or put a reef in or shake the reef out, because it would come up and stay really strong for 25 minutes and then fade away to nothing. And to make matters worse, the wind, which was originally probably from about 290, remember that I want to head toward, my heading is about, that I desire is about 215. So it was from the west-northwest, which is perfect. But then at every hour that passed, it backed to about 10 or 15 degrees. And now, the next morning, the wind is almost directly on the nose, not quite. It's all about it. The problem is, I still have 250 miles to go. And 250 miles, close hauled, is not something I'm looking forward to. So it looks like these next 2.5, 3 days are going to be interesting. But come what may, I'm going to make it to Horta. Nice and safe. I've got double reefs in the sail, so although it's noisy as heck outside because of the wind and there's some squalls around, there's no danger. It's just that it's going to be painfully slow and rough and difficult to sleep, etc., etc. That's part of sailing. That's part of a blue water experience as well. So come on, morale, get back to where you're supposed to be. Okay, update later. The inevitable dolphin shots. I'm coming to the end of the 6th day of this adventure to the Azores. But I have to tell you, to say anything other than this has been a very difficult day would not be truthful. Only within the last hour has the seas and the tide calmed down and the winds calmed down just a little bit. The forecast was for 15 knots of wind from the west, and I had 25 to 30 knots of wind from exactly the course that I wanted to take to the southwest. So that made it really, really difficult. In addition, the seas were about 2 meters most of the day. Now they're only about 1 meter. I like this. This is fine. 1 meter, but they were mostly 2 meters. And when I was beating into the wind and the seas at the same time, it was really tough. So So I first tried it with a heavily reefed genoa and mainsail, and it was just too much for the boat. The 25 knots of wind and the 2-meter seas just stopped the boat. The boat was going 2 knots, between 2 and 3 knots, and rocking and rolling and pounding into the waves. So that didn't work. So I said, okay. So I furled the genoa, dropped the mainsail, and I put up, and I was just gonna say, okay, I'm gonna do this just on the motor, and just on motor for a day or so. So I put the motor in and started pounding into the waves, and I sat out here for 15-20 minutes while it was doing that. And I said, okay, well, it looks like it's doing it okay, and I'm making between 4 and 5 knots into these heavy seas and winds. And I went below and I took off all of my foul weather gear, and I looked out a porthole and I could see the earth was turning like this. I said, what is going on? And what had happened was just that the autopilot was not strong enough for that combination of 25 knots of wind and 2 to 3 meter seas. It just could not handle that. And so the boat had just put itself in a rotation. And if you look at my nice French flag, the red thing there, very nicely rolled up. I didn't roll it, the boat turned around it. The time that it took me to put my foul weather back on it, gear on again, and get chained in and all that, I took control again. The flag wrapped itself all up, so that was very nice. Someone has told me that if ever you can't furl a genoa, if you have a problem with the genoa, that's one way to do it too, is just turn the boat around it. And that will, I thought it was a clever idea. I didn't think it was very practical. I've seen an application of that today, so we'll see. So what I ended up finally doing was putting the mainsail up, heavily reefed, and the motor. And the combination of mainsail and motor is allowing me to do the heading that I need to do to go to my destination. And I'd like to go a little bit further west because, unfortunately, the forecast that I have, which is now, well, in just a few hours, will be 7 days old, so it's not really a forecast anymore. Says actually the bad day for wind and is tomorrow. So I'm hoping that that's not correct. You know, we'll see. We'll see. Hope springs eternal. Because boy, I can't imagine a worse day than today. It was crashing into the waves all day long, and every third or fourth wave would crash over the boats. I've got water all over. This is when you discover all the little leaks that you have in your portholes and every place else inside the boat. There's little water leaks every place, and just annoying. Nothing dangerous, but annoying. And you learn from these things. From mistakes. I mean, I should have known that the motor was with that strong wind and 2 meter seas, 2 to 3 meter seas. That the motor was never going to make it alone. It needed the support of the sail, and that has worked out just fine. So I guess, so what is the good news? I'm searching here. I guess I only have about 200 nautical miles to go. Now, unfortunately, I don't look forward to beating into the wind and seas for 200 nautical miles, so I hope that's not going to be the case.